Hey, thank you for watching me this week. I want to say a special thank you to those who are sending me all over the world to change lives and to invest in young teenage girls. Oh my goodness, it just melts my heart. Just got back, from a trip to France, preaching down in Nice and in Paris, and just giving material away. I read somewhere that 80% of the French people never even owned a Bible. And so for us to be able to give away thousands of my book in French, Vous avez de la valeur aux yeux de Dieu, you're valuable in the eyes of God, giving those away all over France. I couldn't do that if you weren't helping me, and you're going to take part in the reward of that. When we go to heaven, God's going to say, thank you for reaching the French people that I love with all my heart. I just needed somebody to tell them. So, thank you for that. And this week I'll be going to London, preaching in wonderful churches there. And I just want to say thank you. I don't take this lightly and I don't take it for granted. It is such an honor and such a blessing to get to go and inspire people to dream, inspire people to fulfill the assignment that God's given them. So that's what I'm talking about this whole month, is getting you to dream bigger. Dream bigger than what you're dreaming right now. I want you to think outside the realm of possibility. That means you can't do it without God. There's no way you could accomplish the dream you see in here if God doesn't come on the scene and help you. And you know what? That's what God wants to do. He doesn't want you thinking, oh, I can do that by myself. I can do that without God. That wouldn't require any faith. God wants you so dependent on Him that your dreams are so massive, so big, that you're like, God help me, God help me. I say that all the time. So I want you to just take the time to just sit and think. Don't think that it's a waste of time. If it's 10 minutes, if it's 30 minutes, whatever it is, 5 minutes, do it. Take the time and make that a habit where you just sit and dream. I always take a little notebook in my quiet time with God, and I just close my eyes and just imagine what is it the Lord wants to show me. Might be all types of stuff, and I just write them down. I write those dreams down. Even if I'm unsure, is this God or is it just my head? I write it down anyway. So I want you to imagine. I also want you to get your dreams and goals in writing. Write everything down. We just came out with this personal dreams and goals notebook for you and for me because I love doing this. But I want you to take the time to go online, get a picture of what you're believing God for. I even have a picture of a conference I'm believing to have. And I put it right here. I put the picture here. I wrote the vision, and it's got thousands of people in this arena. And then there's even a little me that's like miniature on the stage preaching. Well, that's just a dream right now. I'm imagining that, me holding a conference like that. Well, that's what I want you to do. Think outside the realm of possibility and keep that image in front of you. In this new series on Can You Imagine, I tell story after story of successful people, actors like Jim Carrey, Bruce Lee, Olympians like Bruce Jenner, different ones who have applied these biblical principles. Maybe they didn't know it was from the Bible, maybe they did. But they've applied these principles of imagining, using their imagination, dreaming big, writing their vision, and keeping it in front of them. And it worked. And it'll work for you too, but you have to do it. You can't just say, man, that's good, that's really awesome. No, you got to do it. Well, I was reading recently about Jack Canfield, the guy who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. And he said that back in the 70s, he went to this seminar where he heard this international consultant give this wonderful lecture, and he'd come all the way from Australia. And he thought, that's what I want to do. I want to travel to Australia. I want to be an international consultant. Well, he wrote the vision, made it plain. Then he took it a step further. He acted as if that dream was going to come true. He expected it to happen. So he called the passport office and got an application to get a passport. He's preparing for his dream that he will go to Australia. He got posters of Australia. He ordered a poster of the Sydney Opera House, and he even got a kangaroo crossing sign, put it up in his kitchen. Then he bought business cards. He had business cards printed, and on there he put International Consulting with his name on there. Then he bought an international clock with all the international time zones, and he put that in his kitchen. He had his posters in there, he had his clock in there, he's got his business cards, and every morning for breakfast, he's looking at that vision, speaking it out of his mouth, expecting to be an international consultant. less than a year later, like within that very year, he was invited to Sydney and Brisbane to hold a conference, to do international consulting. What happened? He applied a biblical principle to his life. He wrote the vision and made it plain. You know, there's a story in Genesis that's just, it's almost mind-boggling to see how this principle applied even way back in the Bible days. It's just amazing. But it's the story of Joseph whenever he wanted to marry Rachel. And you may have read that story, you know, where his uncle Laban tricked him and he married the older daughter Leah that wasn't quite so pretty. And then he said, I still want to marry Rachel. And he said, well, you got to work for me for 7 years. Joseph ended up working for him for 14 years to get this beautiful wife, Rachel. Finally, he gets his 2 wives, kind of strange, but he gets the 2 wives, and then he's ready to move on with his life. Well, one night, God gives him a vision, and he says, go to Laban and tell him you're ready to go. And Laban hasn't given you anything as far as an inheritance, but I want you to tell him that you demand that you take all the speckled and spotted livestock from the land. So Joseph did that. He went to Laban, told him, I want the speckled and spotted livestock. Well, Laban looked around and didn't see that there were too many speckled and spotted ones. All of them were solid colored cows and sheep and goats. So Laban's like, well, you got a deal. That's a good deal, you know. So he looks around, there's mostly all solid cattle. Well, God gave Jacob a strategy. He said, I want you to get a branch off of a tree, and I want you to get a knife and streak it and make spots on that branch to where it looks like spotted cows. It may not have looked this perfect, but just for example's sake, he got that knife, he made streaks in the branches that he got off the trees to where it looked like speckles and spots. Then the Lord told him, I want you to put that stick in the feeding trough and in the watering trough. So every single day when those cows are drinking water, they're looking at speckles and spots. They're looking at that vision. Do you know what happened? Okay, the Lord told him, he said, every day do this. Then when one of those cows is ready to give birth, I want you to hold that stick up in front of them. Do you know that those solid colored cows gave birth to speckled and spotted livestock? Absolutely amazing, with no logical reason other than they kept the vision in front of them. And what they kept their eyes on was eventually produced in their lives. What they kept their eyes on was eventually produced in their lives. That comes straight from the Bible. That's wild, isn't it? So what would happen to you if you were to keep your dreams and your goals in front of you constantly, every day, like those cows? If it'll work for a cow, surely it'll work for us. If you were to keep those dreams in front of you every day, looking at them, speaking over those dreams, believing God, expecting them to happen, God will do the same thing for you. Whatever you focus on will eventually develop in your life. Dream big. I want you to get this new series on Can You Imagine? I believe it's the best motivational series I've ever done to make you enlarge your imagination. So thank you for watching me, and I'll see you next time.